that's on our
Finance Committee to order,
That's the
please.
whole thing. Yeah, it's a problem.
I'm going to call off members' names. Be quiet down, please. I'm going to call off members' names. If you just raise your hand that you're here, that will also help the people at home who are watching the video. I'm the chairman, Dawson, Mr. Grimm. Here. Mr. Bergdorf.
Here.
Mr. Clay.
Here.
Mr. Hagan.
Here.
Mr. Joyce Ray.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Mendick. Here. And Ms. Willingham.
Here.
No, we have a full house here tonight. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes, please? Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right. I want to take care of the previous business first, then I'm going to turn it over to John and Pete to talk about exit 4 at the airport. So we'll do part of our business, and then before we get to new business, we're going to jump ahead. So number 1 is resolution number 77. This is being laid aside, tabling this?
Yes, the sponsor reached out saying that the table is for a moment.
Okay, do I have a motion, Mr. Higgins, second by Mr. O'Brien?
Not needed.
Not needed, okay. Because the sponsor did it?
The sponsor's not present.
The sponsor's not present, we table. All right, resolution number 79, requiring contractors and subcon, that one's also being tabled?
That's correct.
By the sponsor?
That's correct.
Okay, we need a vote. Number 3, resolution number 134, this is the polystyrene, that's also being laid aside, I believe.
Yes,
by
sir,
the
that is
sponsor.
being tabled for this
Okay,
one.
thank you. Number 4, local law B for 2018, a local law of the county, electronic reporting precious metal. Mr. Duval is here.
This is that.
All right, do I have a motion to table? Joyce?
Table.
Table is the request of the sponsor.
If he's not present, then it's
All right,
tabled.
so we're all set there. Last one of previous business, number 5, local law D. This is the energy loan program. Where are we with that? Table is the request of sponsor.
Sustainable energy.
Correct. The chairman of the airport authority will give us a presentation. What number on the agenda is airport? 11. Number 11. Okay, so we'll take 11 out of order, authorizing the Albany County Airport Authority to convey 2 parcels of land to the New York State Department of Transportation regarding, finally, a new exit for the airport. Yeah. There you are. John, please go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate the opportunity to present tonight for the county's approval of conveying the land from the authority to New York State DOT. Let me give you a little background on where the site is, and this is a site map which I'll give you a little orientation. This is the Northway right here. This is our airport. This is the terminal. We have we have a primary runway, we have a crosswind runway, and the Desmond is right here at the intersection of I-87 and Albany Shaker Road. So they're right here. So this new exit, or actually it's a redesigned exit, is going to be located right here. It's going to connect the I-87 to Albany Shaker Road. So does everyone understand where we are on the maps? Somewhat.
Yes.
And once again, this is through.
Would you tell him he's right in front of the
This is
map?
exit 5. or
Mr. Drake,
4,
Mark.
Exit 5 up here.
You're right in front of the map.
And here's
Thank you.
exit 2 down here. So the land that we're talking about is right here. It's right at the end of our primary runway. And we acquired this property in 1999 from Vince Aguirre. And we also acquired another parcel from Engel in 2007. And the purpose of acquiring this land is to provide what we call a runway protection zone. And it's a safety area, you know, in the event of an aircraft landing here, unfortunately. But what it is it's a protection zone. We also use it to remove trees and control the tree growth. So with this acquisition, it gave us good control and good protection for the primary runway. And here's the exit as it's being designed right now by New York State DOT. This is, once again, this is I-87, this is Albany Shaker Road, and if you don't mind, I'll go through some of how it works. If you're coming up the Northway, headed north, this is the new feature. You'll go up on a ramp to the right, and this is a flyover. This is going to be bridges over the existing 2 lanes of I-87. And what it's going to do, then it's going to turn, it's going to land on Albany Shaker Road. So if you're coming from the airport here and headed south, you'll go down Albany Shaker Road, and there'll be a ramp right here that'll allow you to proceed south, right along that road. If you're coming from the north to the airport, you come down, headed south, and there's a loop right here. So this is going to be quite a significant intersection.
Sure.
They'll also be modifying exit 5 to some degree. Because of exit 5, what New York State DOT is going to do is they're going to eliminate this long ramp that led into Old Wolf Road. So from 155, there'll be a new ramp built that goes directly to 155 onto I-87. If you're headed north from Wolf Road or Albany Shaker Road, this ramp right here will remain as is, so you can just proceed north from Albany Shaker Road. There's a couple of nuances that are this design, and that is that this existing ramp here that goes from northbound to Wolf Road will be a right turn only. So if you do want to go to Albany Shaker Road, you'll need to take that flyover, land in Albany Shaker, then take a right. So, but this is the design. And what we're talking about today is it's a map that you have right in front of you, and it's highlighted in yellow. It's the conveyance of property. I'll let Peter talk a little bit about the legal aspects of it. But what we have here is New York State DOT is looking to acquire from the Airport Authority 12 acres of land. We purchased this property with federal dollars. It was a grant from the FAA. So since we purchased it with federal grant dollars, the FAA mandates that the proceeds of the sale, which is $855,000, goes back to the airport for airside development. And that's why we need your approval, this legislative body approval, is because understanding we have a lease at the airport, the county owns all the land. So when we purchase land, it's fundamentally, people are saying in greater detail, when we purchase land, the airport authority purchases land, it goes to the county. So we need your authorization to lock in this conveyance. And the FAA will not let us release the land unless we follow their guidelines. And it's their policy that, and it's called a grant assurance, that we're required to have the land, or the proceeds of the value of the land go to the airport. So I've got a drawing there which shows the 12 acres, how it's delineated. There's also another little section that's impacted, and this is 6.4 acres. The New York State DOT is not going to be acquiring this property, but it does have an impact because of how it would be land bound and restricted use in here. But that's fine with us because the purpose of the vine is, once again, is just to control tree growth and prohibit future development. So, Peter, would you like to talk about?
Yeah, if you want, I can. I'm repeating wherever the chairman wants me to.
John, can you tell us who owns this land over this area?
We own most of it. We own probably right in this.
So where's
area.
Heritage Park? So our
Heritage
viewers
Park
could-
is down here.
And the nursing home would be down, okay.
Yes, it's down this way. So as you go into the airport, the road splits to the left and it goes into the right. You're down here, just a little bit on the left is the Heritage Park.
So are those wetlands back in there?
There are a group of wetlands which the DOT has mitigated, and they've already done that work. They've already mitigated the wetlands so construction can proceed quickly. And they also did historic preservation. They did their digs over the last couple of summers. So all the environmental work, NEPA and SEQA work is all complete at this time.
Okay, thanks.
In a way, I'm repeating some of what John said, but most of the legislature may recall that the county leased the airport lands to the airport for 40 years, and we're about 20 years into that lease, and that's a ground lease. every time the airport acquires an acre in its own name, it automatically goes into the leasehold with the county, and title is vested with the county. Since DOT is taking this land, and they are taking it, it's a condemnation, but it's a friendly negotiated condemnation. Both the airport and the county have to agree to that. Also, the proceeds under federal law, as John said, and it's $855,000, backed up by more than one appraisal. And we did get the higher end of that, and we had some negotiation. The $855,000 under federal law, because the land was originally acquired with federal grant money, meaning FAA grant money, has to go back and be spent on airport projects. So those are the key elements of this.
Any members have questions? Mr. Mendick?
In your initial description, you mentioned that that property was originally acquired for a safety zone.
Yes.
Are we now not only losing that safety zone, but we're now putting a big concrete structure right there? And how does the FAA see, they approved it for that reason, now we're using it for an entirely different process?
Yes. Well, I can explain that. Under FAA we follow the FAA rule book very strictly. And with the FAA rule book, you can allow roadways to be built in the runway protection zones. For example, on Route 7 is clearly in the runway protection zone. We were required to remove all the, they don't, under the policy and guidelines, we're not required, but we're strongly suggesting that you basically, it's so strong you must follow their guidelines. They call them guidelines, but they're more than guidelines, trust me. The buildings had to be removed, but the highway could remain. So as long as traffic is moving, and even though, with the exception of a traffic light, you can't have parked cars, we can't build parking lots in that area. So the rules that were, and this has been on the guidelines for many, many years, is that this was a permitted use. And we worked with FAA all along the way. As a matter of fact, there can be no light poles in this area. So DOT and the FAA and the airport are working together to make sure that we're in full compliance with all FAA regs. So a roadway is permitted in that protection zone, but the understanding is it has to be vehicles in motion. You cannot have parked cars, buildings, and structures, cell towers. And we also, this will help us maintain the tree growth. So they're actually going to help us along the road banks here, the ramp sides, to maintain the vegetative growth. Because about every 3 to 5 years, we have to go in there and do all tree topping and tree removal. So it is a permitted function.
But one quick follow-up question. Obviously, you were saying that the overpass, it's going to be an overpass over the highway, but in that section below, that roadway is going to be level?
Yes, that was thoroughly studied, even during the early planning process before DOT asked if they could acquire the property, what the heights would be. They're separate. It does bring the glide slope, the slope where the aircraft come in. Glide slope is a good term for it. It does bring that a little closer, but still has that safety buffer in there for the FAA. They approved the whole thing. Matter of fact, in the package there's a deed of release, so we had to submit to them drawings, documents, calculations all along the way to allow this new modified exit to be built.
Thank you.
Joyce?
Yeah, just 3 follow-up questions, and actually,
Read.
Mr. Mendick asked one of them, so I'm only 2 now. My eyes are shot. It looks like there's 2 exit ramps off the north and southbound lanes. Are there ramps to get on the north and southbound lanes, or are they still going to use Wolf Road and the ramp up by the Desmond to access onto the Northway?
Okay, we got this one right here. This is what you're looking at? That's one?
That's the existing one now.
That's the existing one, yes.
Is that still, okay, so there,
That's still, yes, going north.
Yeah.
That's going to go north, yes.
I guess pretty crowded end of day on weekdays, but, so is there a ramp getting onto the southbound lane from the new?
There is one right here. You go this way right here. You have to go down Long Shaker Road to this intersection and proceed south.
Okay.
So that one's being moved.
This one's
right.
being, this one right here?
Yep.
Yeah, that's being abandoned.
Yep.
That's being abandoned
Okay.
right there.
Right.
And what that's going to be is they're going to relocate the entrance and exit of the Desmond
Yep.
to this light right here. this location right there.
Okay.
So you know how you can move in and out of the desert now?
Yeah.
That left, how it gets a little
Yeah.
congested? We're relocating that entrance in the desert to this location right here at that point.
And the last question, I hate to raise it after the hockey facility debate, but I think there's a little family plot there, isn't there, a cemetery? Is that going to be affected at all?
No, it is.
The Wolf Cemetery.
Oh, down here?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Mr. Higgins. Mr. Burkhart.
Is there a right of reverter or a clawback in the resolution and the deed in the
Yes,
event
if they don't build
DOT?
it, they'll revert it. Yes.
Okay, and what's the time frame for that?
I don't know what the timeframe is, but
I think it's a 3 or 4 year timeframe.
Is this proposal funded as part of the state budget? Is this a
They
go?
have 50 million set aside, and the estimates are around 40 million, so.
I think you're right. I think it's 3 years.
And what's the time frame for the project, assuming we authorize this?
This work, DOT has come to us and they've indicated that all the properties must be acquired by June, and that's the only date that I have.
June of this year?
June of this year. All the properties, including this one, has to be acquired by June of this year.
DOT was quoted in the paper saying they're hoping construction is in 19.
19.
But you were saying earlier, they've already done the environmental work,
They've done
the parking
all- they're all-
lot, so
yes.
you've authorized them to go
Yes.
on the property and
Yes.
do all that, so, okay.
Wait, one last.
All right.
It's not that I'm not supportive of it, but why is this even necessary? I've never had a problem going up or down the Northway to get to the
Well,
airport.
if you come during 5 o'clock, the last, we came to the Mass Transit Committee and we stopped there for about 10, 12 minutes. Just a bit. The traffic backs up.
I don't live out there, so maybe I'm.
It's a problem. Around
Okay.
between 5 and 5:30, the traffic doesn't move along that section of road. And it's just too many cars for that intersection.
There's a lot of accidents, too.
It's mine.
And plus,
It's my district.
it's an international airport.
That's why I might want to say something.
The distinguished member.
First of all, thank you all.
District, Mr. Burkhart.
Thank you all, because there's really this, and Joe's impacted, and Peter Kraus is impacted, all of us who have districts along Shaker Road. Shaker Road, this body has been good enough to fund a Shaker Road corridor study with the town of Colony and CDTC, and we're waiting for those recommendations to come out. But in their preliminary report, they said that the biggest significant change, both the ingress and egress from the airport, getting people into Wolf Road and out of Wolf Road, and sort of reconfiguring the Northway ramp at exit 5, which will alleviate, no, down below, John, where it's going to go to 3 lanes, down there where the big, oh no, up further, right under to the right, there. That, they're going to reconfigure that intersection. It's not going to go all the way down, but it's going to bring people off Shaker quicker. It's going to smooth out all the traffic. And given the problems that we have in transportation that don't seem to be going away anytime soon, for those of us, I mean, my house is on that map. This is the biggest infrastructure contribution for this area that there will probably ever be. And the fact that the state has $50 million in the budget for it, and they're going to start it in 2019, this is going to pay benefits for the airport, ingress and egress. It's going to reduce traffic on Wolf Road. And most important to the people I represent, it's going to help mitigate traffic which is now being pushed into the neighborhoods because you can't get on the Northway at Route 5. People are going up, not that anyone would know here unless you live around there, Maxwell Road, Old Niskayuna Road, and Osborne Road, areas where Joe and I represent. So this is a huge step for our communities as well as the airport.
Any other questions from members?
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair.
The question I have is, the state is paying the airport authority $855,000 for a piece of county land.
Right.
Right, so it's our asset, but the money isn't going to us, it's going to the airport authority?
Yes.
By law, apparently. So the
Well,
question,
I mean, it's our asset too, in the sense that it's part of our leasehold interest. So they're taking away our benefit for the leasesehold.
but it's the county that owns the land.
The county has title to the land, yes. I'm not disagreeing with you.
The owner's not getting the money, is what
It
I'm
was
saying.
bought with federal money.
Yeah. But
Wasn't our money.
it's still county asset.
Yeah.
It's a county
No,
asset. So
it's true.
So my question is, you know, the money must be expended on permitted airport projects. Could you be clearer to me about what those might be and how would the county specifically benefit?
Okay. Well, I would think that any improvements to the airport would benefit the county. But what we're looking at right now is specifically, we have an escalator project in the terminal, and it's about a $1.45 million project, which is only half funded. So this is going to be, this $855,000 is going to be applied to that escalator project. It's called,
I'm sorry, just when you finish.
it's called an airport improvement project. Once again, the FAA has to approve all of our projects for scope. And this is one of the permitted uses of this fund, of these funds.
Do you have a question back there about solar on one of the airport's parking lots?
He does.
While we're on the subject,
I can answer.
while we're on the subject of
I
improvements,
can answer without him even asking. What we're looking at is placing solar panels around the airport. We think of the airport, we don't have a lot of solar panels. And the reason, well, I'm an engineer by trade, and we've been monitoring the progress that the solar industry's been making. And I can tell you that 10 years ago, solar panels were so inefficient that it was just, it did produce electric energy, but it wasn't substantial. It wasn't, there was no payback. Today, there is a payback. One project that we're looking at right now is, if you recall, and I'll get to the parking lot, if you recall the earlier terminal that was built in 1979, it had a passive solar glass on it. It was featured one of the most innovative projects in the county because it had these passive solar panels on it. We've never activated that. However, in our plan is to remove the glass, remove they have these large baffles that direct the sun, remove all that and place solar panels on that. That is a project that is been scoped, estimated, and we're planning for it now. Now, there's another project that has some interest, and that is to cover all the surface parking with solar panels. To do this, we're going to need additional funding source. We haven't identified the funding, but we're looking into the functionality and the payback and the engineering behind that. So it's something that we're looking at, but once again, we don't have that funding aligned at this time.
so that's the long-term parking lot.
Yes.
And you're talking about having covered parking then?
Well, I'm pointing to this because it's probably going to be closer to the terminal. Probably the long-term parking at the terminal, which is off the...
Yeah, okay, that part.
But but there is a lot of acres of parking. We park 7,000 cars a day at the airport. A lot of parking and a
That's
lot
a
of
lot of
land
cars.
covered solar panels. Does that answer the question? Yes.
Gladly, yeah.
Any other questions from members? I know we're getting a little off track here.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 11, seconded by Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
good presentation. We hope you'll be back talking to us about the solar. You want to tie into nursing home reconstruction? Let's go back to number 6. It's authorizing Albany County Executive to enter into a lease agreement with the Albany Capitals Lacrosse Club.
What happened to you?
Mr. Chairman, it can be tabled for this month?
I've got a motion for Joyce, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
We're tabling 6. What happened to 5?
We did the previous business first before we had the presentation. Number 7, resolution number 179, a public hearing on proposed local law I. If in the future we can spell out what local law I is on the agenda, I'd appreciate it. For 2018. Mr. Griffin, you have the floor.
Number 8.
What is slug? It needs a slug. Every law needs a slug.
I'd like to move that to public hearing, inclusive, change the date to May 29th, though.
Okay, we make that amendment. I have a motion?
Motion moved.
Mr.
Chairman,
Question before we get to...
I think there's a lot more to this local law, really, that's going to require some more review by the law committee in this one. I've been told by the building trades it's going to cost significant money for these upgrades to be passed on to homeowners and purchasers. So I really think we should slow down the review of this local law.
Are there any fiscals to the county?
No,
I don't see why it should be in this committee.
so,
Right, I think other committees can handle, I have no problem reporting it without recommendation from...
well, this is just a
committee.
public hearing.
Well, yeah, but I'd like to go ahead and have the public hearing. I don't want us to stop having public hearing, because some of that information maybe, we can get that out into the public.
Sure,
But
I'm
if the
simply
other
saying,
committees want to
Mr.
do more, I understand that.
Yeah, to Mr. Miller, I think this is going to need significant vetting. So while we might have the public hearing now, I think you might need to make some amendments down the line. And we'll discuss that.
Where are we at with the other committees and law?
And there you go. We'll have another
Is that
public
the,
hearing.
if that's the case, do you need to have another public hearing?
Yes.
That's the law.
All right, so this has been referenced to 3 committees, which is highly unusual. Law, public,
Safety.
public safety, okay,
It's been approved by the other 2 committees already.
to go to the public hearing. So audit and finance is left. So I would have like to entertain a motion to report with the amended date, right?
The date would be May 29th.
So I have a motion,
Yeah.
Willingham, second by, as amended, right?
As amended.
Seconded by Mr. Joyce. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Paul. Number 8, local law I. So this we have to table because, right? We can't, that's right. We even need to have this.
So this is good.
Table with the request of the sponsor. Number 9, authorizing an agreement with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding a salary increase for the district attorney, that's the county district attorney, and amending the 2018 district attorney office budget. So, could you explain to everybody why we're doing this?
I can. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and committee. We are requesting this change based, actually in accordance with judiciary law, statute 183A. The district attorney's salaries are currently tied to county court judges' salaries, and as of April 1st, 2018, those salaries are supposed to be in accordance with the law that was passed, or the final recommendations that were passed by the Judiciary Committee in December of 2015. So at this point, we're asking that the budget be amended so that the salary can reflect the new amount as required by the judiciary law, which means that the 2018 salary would go to $195,530. That's 14 weeks at the current salary and 38 weeks at the new salary. And then moving forward in 2019, it would be set at $200,000 per the statute.
Plus fringe benefits.
Correct.
So, members understand that this is a state mandate. This is one of the things that the governor's property tax cap does not provide for relief from. So we absorb this at the county level, even though it's a state mandate. Any questions? Motion?
Just, Mr. Chairman, we really, we don't, we have to accept it.
Correct.
Yeah. Because we're voting on it, but
Otherwise, it
it's
gets taken out of our sales tax revenue or whatever else.
so it's really,
It's like, yeah.
it's not much of flexibility on the vote, even if you think $200,000 is an awful lot for a DA. I understand, sorry.
Did he say
You want to make a
200,000?
motion now?
No.
Wait a
No.
minute, say that again? Did you say 200,000?
Plus fringe.
2019.
Oh, 2,000, oh.
And just to be clear, the way that we get there is that the 2018 Supreme Court justice salary is $208,000. So the percentage of the DA's salary that would have to reflect that dollar amount would be 200,000. So it's directly under the statute.
So it is 200,000.
Motion, Mr. Joyce, second, Ms. Willingham?
No,
No?
I'm glad somebody
I'm not
else. did it.
seconding this.
We have a second? I'll second. Mr. O'Brien, I don't want to let him force it down the throat, son, okay? All those in favor?
Hey,
Opposed? One, Mr. Higgins in the
Unfunded mandate? No way.
Dawson is the negative. Any other? Okay.
So it's one?
Two. Chairman is down.
I'm down to.
The vice chair is now down. That's three. Anybody else? Okay. All right, motion passes. Thanks for coming, appreciate it.
It's just another shitty situation. the
Number
county's
10,
put in,
authorizing
you
an
know?
agreement with the Bethlehem Central
gotta
School
cover
it.
District regarding the purchase of property at 58 Verta Avenue in the town of New Scotland. This is the sheriff's facility out in Clarksville, I believe. Right? Table.
Tennis table?
We did number 11, so we'll now go to 12. Amending resolution number 274 for 2017 regarding an agreement with Midstate Industries LTD for the elevator service project at the Albany County Nursing Home. Tom, coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that wasn't in the scope of services, it was an unforeseen issue they came across. when they were
Everything's
taking
unforeseen.
apart the old elevator.
Yeah, really.
So it was, because it was a code violation, they had to.
So this is in addition to the mold that we were talking
No,
about
this has
last
nothing to do with
month?
the mold, this has nothing to do with
This
the
is
mold.
well,
This
this
is a
is
separate
another-
contract when they did the service elevator, separate contract. And by doing it the way we did, they had to raise the roof of the elevator. And in doing so, it cut the price of the project, we didn't raise the roof and.
So if we
instead.
built a new facility at Heritage Park, we could build it on one floor and not need elevators, correct?
I don't know, the land was sloping, and the CON that was issued out in the early 90s, it was actually going to be sloped into the terrain over there, so it wasn't going to be a
have
one-story
ramps then?
building, but it was a much larger facility at that point in time.
So is this the last of the, not change orders, because the project hasn't started yet. I've been told that they're not change orders until have something official to change. So what is the total of this project up to now with this work to improve it?
This has nothing to do, this is a, go ahead, Sean, look like you have something else.
This is just the elevator contract that was previously passed at Audit and Finance,
17, yeah.
2017. This change order is $625 to that contract, because they found an electrical,
The conduit box and wiring had to be
Panel that-
removed.
$625.
That's all we're talking, we're talking about increasing the contract by
Motion.
$625.
Motion, Mr. Higgins, second, Mr. O'Brien. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Cheap date.
Thanks, I'm glad. I bet you're glad you came.
Thanks for having me. Good night.
We'll be talking a lot more, I'm sure. We're on 13 now?
Yep.
13, authorizing an agreement with the New York State Office of Victim Service regarding the Victim and Witness Assistance Grant Program and amending the 2018 Department of Crime Victim and Sexual Violence Center budget.
Mr. Chairman, members of the legislature, thank you very much. This is new grant money that we were given from our largest grantor, Office of Victim Services. This is $480,000 over 3 years, and it allows us to hire 2 case managers to provide very in-depth and long-term services for those victims who need the additional support. We're very excited. We've never had case managers before. We really think this could increase the breadth and the scope of the work that we do.
Case managers.
Yes,
And this is for 4 years.
3 years.
3 years,
with a possible 2-year
400.
extension, $480,000.
Okay, and what happens at the end of that term?
Well, there's a possible 2-year extension, and there's very robust funding. My entire department is funded by grants, and all of us are very aware that should the grant funding in any way be eliminated, so would our positions.
Appreciate educating us on that. Mr.
Absolutely.
Higgins.
Karen, how much are the case managers gonna make? Is it $80,000 each?
No, $46,000 each, and the rest would be in fringe.
That's annual.
That would be annual, then there's the 2% union increase per year.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Karen, could you just give an overview of your staff? How many people you have to serve?
The staff or the folks that we serve?
Well, a little bit of both.
Currently, we're 13. We have 2 support staff. I have 3 clinicians. I have a volunteer coordinator who is half-time with the advocacy of the Child Advocacy Center. She's their family advocate.
13.
We have a prevention educator. I have 4 court caseworkers, so they're in the 14 different courts in Albany County, and myself. This would be additional 2 more staff, which would make us 15.
And you said that virtually everyone is under some sort of...
Every single person, I think the minimum grant funding I have on any specific line is 40% and up to 100, like 99.9%. We are about 75 to 80 grant percent funded.
Phenomenal. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a question, discussion. Can you tell me, how do you evaluate your employees in terms of clear, practical outcomes of how that money is being utilized?
I am happy to. All of our grants have very specific deliverables, and we use the HCOT database system, and we run reports monthly and quarterly and annually on the number of individuals we're serving, the number of services provided. I can tell you by zip code how many folks of your particular constituents that we've served and what we've done for them.
Because it's one thing to say how many people you're serving, but how well you're doing. And I see this across the board.
We do client satisfaction surveys regularly. We do them for the court specific, and we also do the clinical surveys. And for all the presentations that we do pre and post test surveys to see if we've been effective in changing attitudes, knowledge, and behavior.
So Ms. Ziegler, Mr. Grimm is giving you a heads up that our budget process is probably going to be a little different this year than it has been in the past, and we'll be looking for types of information.
I'm glad to see you're doing that. That's and I'm glad I don't know how you're getting all this grant money, but that's pretty good. Practical outcomes are going to come up quite a bit.
They're up with all of our grantors, so I completely support that, and I can provide that information to you.
Thank you.
Just so what you're looking at is going to change a little bit because these salaries are for a year. They'll be adjusted downward.
Right, so you gave us the annualized, I asked the question,
Yes.
that's an annualized salary, but so
Yes.
we're going to prorate it for the the grant is for what period?
When it was released, it was originally with a start date of April. Obviously, that didn't happen because they didn't even make the award, so I'm hoping July so that I don't lose any money.
So it's going to be half.
I'm anticipating.
The county's fiscal year runs from January,
Yes.
unlike the state, which is April 1st to,
Yes.
so it'll be half a fiscal year then, right, Nick, for us? Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Hagan, second by Mrs. Willingham. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're all done with, okay. Number 14, authorizing an agreement with Soldier On, Inc. regarding the lease of property in the town of Colony. Mike.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a new lease for the same amount of time as the previous. It's the same lease. It's for the small house on Heritage Lane that is usually known as the Nursing Home Superintendent's House. Soldier On has been running their New York State operations out of that house for the past 5 years, and we're looking to allow them to continue to do so. So we're asking for your approval.
How long is the lease for?
5 years.
5 years.
What type of lease is it? Is it a triple net lease, or is it a lease purchase?
No, it is just a ground lease that allows them to use the facility. In fact, the copying, I apologize, didn't do this much justice, but if you look on the map, the building that you see right off Heritage Lane, if you can't kind of make it out, the lease is for literally just the outline of the house. So they have use of the house, and that is all they have use of. When they originally took over the house, it had been neglected for well, I don't know how long it had been neglected for, but it had been neglected for a long time. There were holes in the roof, there were significant overgrowth in the property, and they rehabilitated the entire property at their own expense, which is the reason that we're entertaining this again. So.
Willingham, yes.
This is just a question. As far as the property that Soldier On is trying to renovate and build out there now, where is it in relation to this?
Okay, I wish I had a map like the airport folks. So if everyone was looking at the map here, it would be up here. Okay, so if you went back up Heritage Lane, because this is the pond, this is Inlee Pond, the big black dot here. If you went back up, you could take it right and it'd be up over here.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Does that make sense? Sorry.
Yes. We're all familiar with it.
How much is the lease for? $1?
$1. And again, the reason that we entertain that is because they have made significant, they've, at their own expense, they have renovated the whole property, and any issues with the property now, they are responsible for.
Define significant in the dollars.
Thousands. We're talking new roof, well, patching holes in the
Tens of
roof.
thousands.
A whole,
Boiler system, they.
yeah, I mean, we're talking, I'd say, at an estimate, I can get you an exact amount. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I would say in the ballpark of $20,000.
Okay.
I assume they're gonna have insurance.
Our leases require all that, Mr. Ryan, yeah, absolutely.
Motion.
Can I have a
Well,
question?
yeah, Caucus.
Does
Deputy
that have
Majority
any
Leader.
historical, are there rules on, in that location when they do renovations, do they have to?
Renovations are different from buildings, so as long as your renovations are happening within a building and you're not changing the look of the building,
Right.
then you're covered, which is why all that was the case.
So tonight we've heard from the Airport Authority, we've heard from the nursing home, we're hearing about Soldier On, it's out, sort of our campus out there.
Sure.
Can you tell people how much acreage we have out there that's in Mr. Bergdorf's district?
All of
County
it?
property?
A lot of bits and pieces.
You have to ask
It
him,
doesn't have
Chairman, I'm
owners
sorry.
there.
Rough estimate, I think it's around 80. Yeah,
So you've got the airport, the hockey facilities there.
That's not counting the airport, though.
Heritage Park,
The prison.
the prison.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Shaker Heritage.
Shaker Heritage, Soldier On, we have a lot.
Hockey
of-
facility.
The vast majority of county-owned property is in that general area.
And how many acres approximately?
I don't know off the top of my head, we can easily get you that number.
We have cemeteries there, parking lots, future solar facilities.
Sure. We have all of that, right.
Some cemeteries we admit to, others we don't.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, and a motion from Mr. Higgins, seconded by
Under the
Ms. Joyce, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the new investment policy for all the counties. Fire away.
Thank you. I have Mr. Riley here, he's much more in depth, he worked in the, the investment business for a long time. By municipal law, we have to have a filed registered copy of an investment policy. The previous policy, I think, last passed around the early 2000s. As we all know, there have been changes to regulations that needed to, reflect in that investment policy. The policy that we gave you came with minor changes that Mr. Riley can, of course, effectuate to you, but that in fact is the summation of this.
Okay, so the main changes from the previous policy were I removed 3 investment vehicles that both myself and the state comptroller have deemed too risky for municipal funds. We took out corporate bonds.
So, three things you removed.
3 categories of investments, corporate bonds being one of them, mortgage-backed securities, which is we're all over now after what happened in the economy. And the county was previously invested in those, we never should touch that. And municipal debt in Puerto Rico, because there is no Puerto Rican municipal debt that would cover the ratings levels that we would need to be into. The impetus for this was, obviously we had such historically low interest rates. Previous to this, our banking services contract has always said that we need to have interest-bearing accounts for all funds. Because of the low interest rates, the Fed funds rate literally at 0 for a while, we were getting a better interest return or rate of return through our interest-bearing accounts than if we went out and locked our money up into term securities. In the March meeting of the FOMC, they raised by another 25 basis points. We hit the tipping point where we now should be invested at least in treasuries. Specifically 6-month term if we can get out there. We're starting to get a little close to whether or not with our annual cash cycle, if we'll be able to do that or not, depending on how fast we can get through your body. The Fed is expecting to raise rates again in June and September, possibly between 50 and 75 basis points additionally. Securities are starting to price all that in. So any questions?
I have a question, maybe Mr. Mendick can elaborate on it.
Sure.
We often have a discussion about undesignated, unappropriated fund balance. The rainy day so-called reserve, and that not all that is liquid or cash or something that we can get at. So where does the county's investment policy, what investment instruments are we utilizing for that fund balance?
Well, that's what we were here to discuss.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get involved in.
That is, yes.
Okay. And that amount right now is how much approximately?
Well, we're looking based on cash flow needs and the terms that we have to have, typically, as you guys know, we have an influx of cash at this point in time in the year. The levies usually get settled, stuff that.
Early in the fiscal year for the county.
Right. By the end of the year, by like October, you start hitting a point where, start relying on sales tax income to feed off until, next year's levy. So this 6-month window is really where we need to invest the money to have access to it later. Now, down the line, depending on how it's built, we might be able to do a portion of that 20 for a more short term to get us to that, precipice next year, if that makes sense.
You just said 20, back up. So how much do we have? So what is the total undesignated, unappropriated fund balance now, approximately?
Well,
and then how much of
that is approximately 60 million that's published in the book.
Right.
This is a cash flow that I'm.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
But we're always told that not all that 60 million.
And that's what I'm trying to say. You don't have it all throughout the year. There's some that are receivable, some are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of the cash flow, you say you're going to have a window for 20 million. You're going to be able to.
That seems like the best option with the current rates and actually where the market is at.
Yeah.
It's percentage points that you get. I think it's 1.8%.
Yeah, we'd be looking
for
at
6 months.
right now, if we could pull the trigger on locking in 6 months for 20 million, we'd be looking at approximately 200,000 in interest from that. We'd probably do a smaller $5 to $8 million piece out there for 2-3 months.
October when we have a cash flow. So
yes.
Then we free it up, we make some money in the meantime.
Yeah, we'd put we'd go a little beyond the 20, probably another maybe 5 or 8 million in short term. Do like some 30 days ladder, maybe ladder, a 60-day in there. It's $400,000.
We haven't done this in a while, so this
I
is.
remember back when we used to actually get interest on our.
And maybe we could be more aggressive, gentlemen. But
we want to ease into it.
We also know that, like, in a 6-month turnaround, if your sales tax drops 10%, October could be very close. You know what I mean? And we've had really good times right now with, the economy, but in 08, 07,
yeah,
in 6 months you went from great to
So we're being conservative here. It's municipal budget.
Good this week.
Yeah. I was on this committee the last time we actually cut property taxes. So, Mr. Bergdorf.
Okay, I think I got what you're saying.
Yep.
So if the universe is $60 million, which is our paper surplus, you feel comfortable locking away an initial slug of 20, and then perhaps when the cash flow is appropriate, 8. So you got 28 locked up.
Probably 25 to start with. But
Okay,
20 of that
25,
would be
okay.
locked up for a full 6
So
months.
$35 million is the working capital that we need to have on the books for expenditures and receivables in order to run the county?
You go down, like you get your sales tax, you need your distributions.
That's what I'm saying. It's a combination of what we have to pay out and what you're waiting to get in. So you really need $35 million in working capital, or that's your conservative
That's our conservative.
Okay. So, but you're using a ladder strategy where you're doing it in pieces, and every 30 days you could add to it, and as stuff comes off the back end, you can roll it over in increments, that sort of thing.
And as part of this policy, and it's under the exact same terms as previous, we will be reconstituting the investment advisory board, which majority and minority caucuses both get an appointment to. The comptroller's office gets an appointment too.
How many are on that?
It's a 6-member board. County, it's the same terms as it was previously. County executive has 3, comptroller has 1, majority 1. So we'll reconstitute that, so that board will know what's going on, and bring news back to your caucus after the meetings. We'll have to discuss on scheduling.
Yeah, so when, in October, November, when we start talking about the budget, that'll be time when we'll have a better picture of things, and maybe we can talk about.
We'll actually have some investment
more
gains for you then.
At length, yeah.
Do you have any, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, Mr. Bergdorf,
Do you have anything budgeted for investment gains? Or is there a number in the budget?
Interest that we assumed that we would make off of our bank balances.
Which was?
I don't have that in front of me right now.
We can get it to you.
I mean, is this going to exceed that?
It might be a little better. We'd have to run the full numbers on that.
Okay.
The comparison to the compensating balance.
Yes.
You also have that to factor in also.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to get this bracketed and underlined so we can see what the current policy is and what the changes are to it?
I should be able to do that. At the bare minimum, I can get you an old copy of the previous policy.
You know, it's hard to see what the current policy is and what has changed.
This went through about 20 revisions to get it to where it was, so. It's been getting beaten up by the law department, myself, finance, treasury, the comptroller's office. There was some legislative input into it from staff, so it's got a lot.
Got it. And just refresh my recollection, where do we keep, is all our money right now kept in the local credit union?
M&T, they won the banking services contract.
Yep.
Where?
M&T.
Yeah, we bid that out every 5 years, and it's scored by both the comptroller's office and management budget.
Got it.
We were previously Wells Fargo.
I mean, I think this is pretty.
Mr. Grimm, yeah, Mr. Higgins, you want to just say something?
Yeah, just to stay, I think it's a pretty complicated proposal. I mean, I personally would like a little more time to digest it and sort of see what the old proposal is and how it's changing. I mean, I don't think there's really much of a rush to it. It's just my own 2 cents.
Not to
I mean,
be
we have a
converse with you, Mr. Higgins, but to do this, we would be locking ourselves down.
For 6 months. Yeah, we would take $200,000 off the table if we don't get it through. in
Or
this
a good portion of that, because we would not be able to access like a 6-month treasury at that point.
Then we'd only be able to do it
Carrying
3 months,
ourselves
so
over
that's-
into that working capital post that we.
If you could expeditiously get that information to Mr. Higgins so that he can review it between now and session night.
I tried to.
I understand, you know,
I can get
we
you
don't want to
over.
leave
Yeah.
money on the, or not get money.
Yeah.
Or it could be a tough lesson to learn
So-
on how to give us things a month before they need to be acted upon.
Well, let's put it this way, our investment, we would take no different strategy right now than what you would have 10, 15 years ago. Same thing, we're gonna invest in
Except
treasuries.
for Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Yeah.
US treasuries. It's the same, we are going to take the same action.
So why do we need to do this then?
Because we have to have a valid policy on file.
And literally, we cannot have a certified copy produced by any of the bodies that filed it back in the day.
And the previous policy is not acceptable.
It's not that it's not acceptable, it's they don't have a certified copy.
It's not certified.
So this is
No,
a
it
state
was-
requirement? Or-
Yeah,
General
General
municipal
Municipal Law, Section 39, I believe, requires you to have a filed
Certified copy.
And does it have to be updated every so often to?
They say that you
That's
should
the next
regularly
question,
review
Wanda.
it, they don't give any time
Why
guidelines.
wasn't this ever,
Because we weren't investing at that point, so
we haven't, well, we were investing. It lapsed then during the period of time?
since, yeah. Well, I don't know when they last had a certified copy. It's prior to this administration. Because we haven't invested since.
I have a motion. Yeah, Mr. Graham, sorry.
The state law really restricts on what you're capable of doing.
The main restriction to the state law is they don't want municipalities investing in anything that risks your principal.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a risk, but there's also a risk in not being too cautious. Because when you're sitting on a lot of money, that's a great opportunity to make money for all the services that are required in Albany County. So, you know, I think sometimes people are too conservative. Within the confines of prudence,
Say that
it's
again?
important to make the most money you can get. Yeah, I know they have certain requirements. There is some flexibility, I would imagine, for the county, and otherwise we wouldn't have an individual policy.
We're going to pursue the highest return that we can under the
Obvious.
existing guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Motion?
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. O'Brien?
Motion.
I'm going to abstain from this pending the receipt of the additional information.
And if I can say one more thing, if you want to meet me after the meeting, I can actually get you a hard copy of the previous policies.
I'll second.
that we're done here.
Seconded by Ms. Willingham. Thank you, Chris. Is that okay, Chris?
Sure.
Working on, thanks a lot, Mr. Riley.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. All right, we're on number 16. Amending the 2018 Department of Children, Youth and Families Budget Administrative Adjustments. What are we adjusting?
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman and committee members. Thank you so much. What we want to do is to amend the budget to reflect that we're eliminating two positions. One being the part-time speech pathologist, because we had significant difficulties in hiring a part-time employee. Basically, there is an issue related to conflict of interest. If the speech pathologist is on our evaluation team, they cannot work for then another agency providing speech therapy. So therefore, nobody was interested in part-time positions. The second position is the medical transportation coordinator. That individual retired this past year, and what we've really done is identified that we didn't need a full-time position for that. So we distributed her duties really under our single point of entry coordinator. And she has maintained those duties at least for the past 8 months successfully. So what we'd like to do is take those positions and then create a full-time speech pathologist, which we're confident that we would be able to fill because people
Someone
want...
from Albany County. Back to the
Yes.
discussion previously. Yes.
Yes, because we're really seeing an increase in children being identified through early intervention and special education, so it's Committee on Preschool Education. They have to have an evaluation to identify that there is a delay and deficiency in speech and language development. So by having this person on our evaluation team, we would be able to serve more children, because we also have to meet a 45-day limit. So when we receive that call from a family indicating they want an evaluation, if we can't complete the evaluation and the report before the meeting occurs, then we have to turn the family away. We don't want to turn families away.
Can you just explain to us the difference, the part that the county picks up versus school districts? Where your ages you're talking about here, the priest?
Right, we actually are birth to age 5, so basically, once the service is provided, we do receive some reimbursement from early intervention through the Department of Health, and then preschool education would be state education department. The school districts do not pay us.
But they pay. So what's the age where they switches over to the school districts?
3 years old.
3 years old. So we're talking about 1 to 5, birth to 5.
Correct.
And then, so the counties in the state pick up until age 3?
3 is, see, it's really under the State Office of Department of Health, and then basically 3 to 5 is State Education Department. So
I'm just trying to find, when are the county taxpayers contributing to paying for this?
When we get, it's kind of share wide, so we're part of it, from 0 to 3 and 3 to 5.
Well, the school districts take over at age 3, but how much of the, before that?
Well, no, they really don't. It's still the responsibility of the county, and then when they turn age 5, because it's that preschool education piece, we are responsible for providing any type of center-based services, or any type of related services if they're in the home. Really, the school district is not 100% responsible until they're kindergarten age, which is age 5.
Thanks. Ms. Willingham?
You go ahead.
Wanda, you have a question? Go ahead.
Okay, so the early intervention, you mentioned that. So that is part of what you're talking about here right now, right?
Correct. The evaluation team evaluates birth to age 3, which is early intervention, and then 3 to 5, which is preschool education. So they basically are skilled and equipped to serve that population of birth to age 5.
So with the early intervention, that's no cost to
Families.
Families. Okay. All right.
It's basically paid by the Department of Health.
How did you arrive at the salary of $61,699?
That is the salary that we do already have one full-time speech pathologist, and this would be then an entry-level salary that is all negotiated by the union.
Sure. Okay, thanks. Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
And 17, authorizing the conveyance of 474 and 476 Elk Street in the city of Albany. Motion, Ms.
I have a question. I'm not on the bid. I was waiting till all the other members had an opportunity. And I see Mrs. Willingham, I think that's her property. And I'm just concerned about this new group called the Refugee Welcome Corporation. Are they 501c3 up at Elk Street? And are they the Red X buildings? Or are they what? They're taking foreigners into that neighborhood, and the legislator hasn't been told about this?
This is Ms. Chapman's property.
Absolutely.
So,
You have an answer, okay.
well, hopefully I have an answer. So they're not a new entity. This body has authorized the transfer of properties to these individuals before.
Okay.
They fully rehabilitated those properties and
Refugee Welcome Corporation.
I'm not sure I term them as foreigners, but they are individuals who are legally coming to this country under refugee status, and they resettle individuals in these properties. The last two properties we transferred to them was foreclosed property that was in very bad shape directly next to an open lot. And this is very much the same situation. So we, with the support that they got from the land bank, we felt that it was appropriate for us to allow the body to consider the transfer directly, and so we put it forward. In terms of your question about Red X's,
You don't know?
that's a very complicated answer. Not all foreclosed property has a Red X on it, and not all Red X's are even tax delinquent. In fact, the vast majority of them aren't tax delinquent, which I realize is a point of some frustration. It is for us as well, but you know, these folks don't own these properties now, so they're looking to take properties that are delinquent, and I actually know these properties particularly because we checked with our Division of Finance and Department of General Services after we took judgment, and they are in pretty bad shape. And there is actually a concern related to black mold in one of the buildings as well, which obviously can constitute a public health risk if it gets too bad. So that's the general situation.
So the buildings are considered dangerous, unsafe, and got mold in them. But we want to transfer them to the refugees? That's what we want to do, right?
Again, we're trying to send them to an organization that works with refugees, that has a proven track record of rehabilitating properties. I'm not transferring these properties directly to somebody with refugee status.
Okay.
Ms. Willingham.
All right, so I'm looking at this and it says it's two-family residence.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, that's correct.
I'm just looking at the one. I don't know if both of them are.
No, one's a lot, one's a building. That's
Oh,
correct.
okay. So now, I guess my question leads toward this. So is this going to become, stay a two-family residence? Do you know that? And I'm asking this question because in speaking to people who, immigrants and refugees, let's stick with that, okay? They're dividing, if this is two-family, they're taking, if it's 3 bedrooms, depending upon who they're trying to settle, you could have 3 different families in there, okay? And the other thing I want to know is, are these people then eligible for county services? And so now we're now paying the rent, or what's going on?
Okay, so I'll answer that in a couple ways. So this organization has a proven track record of rehabilitating properties and getting individuals in those properties according to the regulations that are allowed by the city of Albany. So, they aren't, to your concern, packing individuals or allowing families to exceed the reasonable and allowed capacity of a building.
Do you know that?
I know of it in the case of the previous property that we've sent to them, yes. I cannot tell you that there's no way for me to provide a guarantee for any property transfer of any kind. I can only give you what I know based on previous experience.
So is there a reverter if you find out down the road that it's not they're not following the rule? Trying to relay the concerns here.
We can't put a reverter in for that reason. I could check with law. We might be able to put a reverter in related to if they don't rehabilitate the property.
Well, that's standard. I'm asking you, well, it should be standard.
It's not generally standard, but we can add one. That's not a problem.
But I think the concern is the use of the property, not after it's been fixed up. So that if there are problems down the road, what leverage? There is a revert, I'm sorry. There is, I understand there's a revert. Okay, thank you. Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you.
I'll withdraw my questions.
The member representing that district, has she been notified?
I believe we had a conversation with Norma very early on, but you'll actually see from the documents, this organization, the Land Bank, was far ahead of its schedule. So we just took judgment to these properties, and they actually logged their request in March of last year. So.
17.
And the other thing is, have you been working with the city of Albany on this? They're agreeable to all this, or not?
No, we've had no communication with the city of Albany.
Don't you think government should talk to one another? Be on the same?
Yeah, really. City's openly hostile.
No motion?
I think we all agree on that.
Motion. Willingham, Mrs. Clay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 18, authorizing the cancellation and chargeback of unenforceable delinquent real property tax liens in the town of Burnham. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. 19, authorizing the refund of real property taxes in the town of Colony. Motion. O'Brien, Clay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 20, authorizing corrections of the tax rolls in the town of New Scotland. O'Brien, second. Clay, all those in favor?
Are we done?
And we have one more. Thank you very much. That was easy, wasn't it? Put you at the beginning of the agenda next month. This is a late starter. It wasn't on the agenda you got earlier. I believe Nicole circulated it to everybody. This is Mr. Bullock's resolution requesting the county executive to consider the feasibility of solar panels during the reconstruction of the Albany County nursing home, which I alluded to earlier. This is resolution number 183.
183?
Mr. Bullock is here. Do you have anything you want to say, Doug?
The resolution is coming after a resolution I put in 2013 for a photovoltaic solar system on the nursing.
Doug, can you come on up to the table here and sit right next to Ms. McKnight? Thank you.
This one is different in the sense that, it takes the parking lot of the Albany County Nursing Home, which is a construction mess right now, and makes it into a carport, a solar carport. And it also takes the single-story buildings of the nursing home, the ones that protrude out, there's 4 of them, and they're long, and you've seen the protrusion, and puts the solar panel system on the top of those structures, either a photovoltaic or a thermal solar system, because the county uses a lot of water, and heating that hot water would save the county a lot of money. I went through all of the National Grid bills for the nursing home, and they're tremendous. They average, I did a year's study on it, averaged it out, $8,000 a month just for the electricity, not the gas bill, that's just for the electricity. So what we're proposing here is something similar to a solar farm where we would have access, definitely with all that power, we would have access. The access would go to the jail, to the airport, and to the hockey arena, if we have an agreement with them. And what we're asking for is a feasibility study from the county executive's office to look into the best possible
Doug, is
arrangement.
there actually a required report to us on the feasibility or lack thereof?
There isn't.
One way or the, do you want to have that in here so that we get a report this time?
Yes?
When would you like that? We can make an amendment now. What time frame would you
By June?
like?
6 months, give them 6 months.
Give them 6 months? Okay.
When are we supposed to break ground on the nursing home? Anybody know?
I don't know, they're not,
Not sure, Tom.
all I know is they're gonna put
All right,
the
so, all right,
911
so
service.
there being, it's gonna take another month to, what, we amend this.
3 to 6 month period.
So 6 months, do you want an interim report?
Just
6 months with an interim report
At 3 months?
at 3 months.
All right.
So what is this?
That sounds reasonable.
Just as a point of clarification, Public Works adopted this as is. If the Finance Committee chooses to add extra language to it, that's of course their prerogative. The Public Works Committee would have to address that so they can combine both versions. Just as a point of
As Chair of Public Works,
Okay.
you will find.
I would yield to, I mean, do you want to just let it go as it is and have a discussion with the county executive's
So I want
office?
to make it
Not deliberate?
mandatory. We did this once before, we didn't get
Nothing
it.
happened.
Nothing happened.
If you'd like to have a short meeting on the floor.
Just
Doug,
before the
do you
meeting.
mind if we amend it on the floor and then we can expedite this? We
That's
don't have to
fine with
go
me.
back. All right, the other suggestion, I talked to you briefly about this, is you have the airport receiving, to the extent that excess solar is generated beyond the needs of the nursing home's ability to use at a given time. You have a process here where you say that the airport authority or the correctional facility can get the extra juice, right?
All three of them. But it would be prioritized with the jail first, the,
That's not in here right now. So we have to make that amendment too. So nursing home is first, second would be,
the jail.
well, because some county facilities are taxpayer supported and some aren't. Like the airport authority is not tax supported. So I would like to see priorities go to those. And the hockey facility we talked about.
Are these places capable of receiving?
There won't be anything
Don't they
left.
have to
But
be?
now the airport tonight was
You
telling
need to build
us
a transmission line
they're
from the
talking
nursing
about
home
doing their own
to
solar.
the correctional facility to get
So
the power from one
that
to the
would
other.
make us more
much that
comfortable
cost?
with saying correctional facility first.
I'm just saying, you know.
A lot.
Right, so the two amendments that we've been talking about
But
would be
that's a
an
feasibility.
interim and a final report, 6 months, and then specifying the prioritization.
They're just
here.
saying, I want
But
this.
leaving
to
it so that it can be
It's like,
revisited.
Okay.
like it's
Right,
spring.
once we start.
definitely.
It doesn't work, it's not like Wi-Fi, it doesn't just magically flow through the air, you have to actually get it over
Motion
there.
to, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn? All right, good night, thank you very much.